Hi, my name is Andy Park. Welcome back to this channel. In this video, I'll share some of the best practices in writing effective emails in the workplace. The tips I'll be sharing today mostly applies to emails that you send to your work colleagues. I won't be covering marketing emails or those that are used to solicit new businesses and new clients. Although the communication methods in the workplace have evolved over the last decade with the introduction of apps like Microsoft Teams, Slack, video conferencing like Zoom, email still remains the number one tool for most businesses. And with many people working remotely from home and not being able to connect live with our colleagues, we're relying on email even more to communicate and to collaborate. This all translates to people receiving more emails than ever. So if you want your emails to stand out above others and actually get opened, read, and actioned, it's worthwhile to spend some time crafting an effective email. Is email the right tool for the job? Before we even start drafting emails, we first need to consider whether email is the right tool for what we're trying to achieve. For example, for quick casual questions, you may use Teams, chat, or Slack versus sending an email. If you belong to a Teams channel, you may start a conversation there so that all team members have visibility to the discussion and may contribute to it. For longer messages or communications where you anticipate a lot of questions and back and forth, a phone conversation or a short meeting may be more appropriate. Communication objective. Once you determine that email is the best method, we then need to clarify the communication objective. What is the purpose of the email? What are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to get our colleagues to action on something, or are we simply sharing and socializing information? Having a clear objective will guide us in crafting an effective email. Subject. Once we've determined what the communication objective is, we can craft the subject line. Again, because people get so many emails, we want to convey the essence of our email in the subject line and catch the reader's attention when they scan through their inbox. Keep the subject specific and relevant to their recipients. Avoid generic or vague subject lines. An example would be something like, quick question, urgent, and need a favor. These sort of subject lines convey no information about what the email is about. Think of newspaper headlines. They give the readers a clear idea of what the articles are about. It should be similar with emails. Here are some examples of good subject lines. As a project manager, I send a lot of agendas and recaps, so I often start my email subject with leading keywords like recap and agenda. If there's an action required from the recipients, we can call it out in the subject line. But please use these sparingly. You don't want all your email subjects to look like this. Similarly, if you're sending a non-critical email that doesn't need to be actioned, like when we're sharing a trade news article or a blog post that your colleagues may be interested in, we can indicate that in the subject line. So we got our colleagues to open our email. Now what? State the purpose of the email at the beginning and keep the message concise. If I'm busy and I open an email that is long and messy, and if I can't figure out what the email is about in the first few sentences, I'll close it and move on. Don't waste your readers' time. Make it easy for them. More work up front for you means less work for your readers. And if you're sending the email to a lot of people, all the more reasons to take some effort to carefully craft the message. Our goal is to ensure our message is understood. Always state the purpose of the email at the beginning to help orient the reader to the subject. If you need something, say so at the start. Don't dance around it and add unnecessary pleasantries. Consider this example. There's nothing inherently wrong with this email, but it's a bit long-winded, and the reader doesn't get to find out what is needed from her until the very end. Also, all the pleasantries don't seem sincere or genuine. It seems they're being nice just to get what they need. Now consider this example. It's direct and to the point, but it's not rude. Placing the pleasantry at the end seems more genuine. Also, it's important to set the right tone in an email. You don't need to be overly apologetic when requesting something that's work-related. For example, if you're following up on a request, you don't need to start the email with things like, "Sorry to keep bothering you with this as I know you're really busy." If your goal is to get a response, be firm and unapologetic while maintaining professional courtesy. Formality. This is something that is changing rapidly. Workplaces are becoming more and more casual. Up until 10 years ago, I had to wear a suit and tie to work every day, even in 90-degree summer heat. Then just a few years later, I found myself working in an office where people were sitting on medicine balls at their desk and playing table tennis during breaks. So this part will largely depend on your workplace culture. If you're not sure, I'd suggest erring on the side of being conservative. Write thanks instead of THX, yes rather than yep. Keep email messages professional. Also, when it comes to using emojis, there's a whole debate about whether it's appropriate in business emails. Some studies have found that people who include emojis in their emails are viewed by their colleagues as less competent. While I personally generally don't use emojis in work email, I will sometimes use it to lighten up a tense email. Really, I think this all depends on who you're sending the message to. Structure. When you have a long message, structure them for easier readability. Add headings and subheadings when appropriate. Use bold, italic, and underline for emphasis, but use them sparingly. Use bullets and lists to organize information. Sometimes table can help structure a complex set of information. If you find it cumbersome to work with tables within email, you can create an Excel or even OneNote and simply copy it over. Who's the audience? Are you drafting an email to a senior executive or to a junior associate? If it's to the senior executive, you want to keep the message concise and at a high level. You don't want to bog them down with details. You can, however, offer to provide additional info or details if they're interested. Whereas if you're drafting an email to a junior associate, you may need to provide more details and context and avoid using technical jargons or too many acronyms. For those who have been in a specific business or industry for a long time, we often suffer from cognitive bias or curse of knowledge, as it's sometimes called. Certain business processes and technical terms may be so obvious to us that we forget a new recruit who joined from a different industry may not understand what we're writing about. And on the flip side, there are some people who flex and want to show their expertise and impress people by deliberately using complex terms and technical jargons. Don't be this person. And again, our number one goal in communication is to be understood. So be conscious of this fact when drafting an email and cater your email communication to the recipient. The last line of your email should include a call to action that will motivate the recipient to respond. Email etiquette. There's a lot here, but I'm just going to focus on a few that are my personal pet peeves. Learn to use CC and BCC properly. People tend to use to and CC fields somewhat arbitrarily. Use the to field for recipients who are required to take action in response to the email. On the receiving end, I often filter my emails to first read emails that are directly addressed to me versus being copied. But if the sender does not use these fields properly, I could end up deprioritizing important emails. If you're sending an email to a large distribution, consider BCCing everyone. You can include the general distribution in the body of the email. This will prevent people from accidentally replying to all. Avoid sending non-urgent emails on evenings and weekends. Of course, this largely depends on the nature of your job and your work schedule. But if you and your team work a conventional work schedule, try not to send emails outside work hours. In most cases, we send these non-urgent emails to get things off our plate and reduce our anxiety. But what we're really doing is just transferring the anxiety to someone else. If you've ever received an email on a Sunday at 5 p.m. that's triggered stress and ruined your evening, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't do this to other people. Instead, you can use the delay send feature in your email client. In Outlook, you can do this by going to Options, then Delay Delivery. Okay, so those were some of the practices that I use at work for email. If you have best practices that you want to share, feel free to post them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and learned anything from it, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks, and bye for now.